Here we go. Hey, what's going on? This is Marcos. So today I want to talk about why gear matters or when gear matters, because I've heard a lot of people say gear doesn't matter, and I understand where they're coming from, but it's not entirely true to say that. I know they're referring to the fact that you should just go out and not make excuses, create your films, create what you need to create whatever video you need to create. I totally get that. I think that's what they're referring to, but when it comes to getting paid for video work, gear matters a lot. If you don't have the proper gear, it might prevent you from landing certain jobs or gigs. I know this because as a full-time freelance filmmaker, I've gotten certain jobs just because I have the proper gear. I'll give you a couple examples. Back in late 2018, I sold my two Sony a6300s because the wedding filmmakers that were hiring me as a second shooter, they shot with full frame cameras. And I thought about all the times they weren't hiring me, where they were picking other filmmakers like myself because they had the proper full frame cameras. So I bought full frame cameras. I sold the two a6300s. And from there, I saw that they were hiring me more often. I also started showing up with Pelican case full of prime lenses, 2 cameras, audio recorders, cables, everything you would need in case I was put in a position of being a first shooter, not just a second shooter. So I was showing initiative, I was showing that I was prepared and I was a professional. And yes, it paid off. After a while, they started, hiring me, giving me the responsibility of being a first shooter, which means there's a higher pay, of course. And also, it didn't hurt that I had a drone and a gimbal, all that, it makes you a whole package. Of course, you have to be good. It's a given that your skills have to be good. Otherwise, you're not even considered. You might have all this gear, but if you are not very good at what you do, then you're not going to be considered again. So it just added the incentive to get picked over other filmmakers who might not have all this gear that I had to take on the first shooting role. So that's just one example. Also, the second example is from my corporate work. This year I did half corporate work, half came from weddings. I'm moving on to more corporate work, and there were certain jobs where I did not even pitch myself because the job asked for a cinema camera. Now, I know how to use mirrorless and DSLRs, that's fine, but there's a learning curve to properly operating a cinema camera like the FS7 that I have here I'm shooting with. And I'll talk about why I bought it. It was one of the cameras that was requested a lot for these jobs, and often I would not go for them just because I didn't want to rent it out and try to figure out the day before. I don't like to do things like that. I like to immerse myself in the equipment, get to know it very well before I, put myself in that situation where I have to film with it. So these projects are high budget. There's a lot of writing on the performance of the camera, so they're not gonna trust a filmmaker, a DP, or a camera operator with just using a regular DSLR. These clients, often they're agencies, they're expecting a certain quality of the video, therefore they're gonna ask for a cinema camera. If you're not showing up with it, or if you say you do but you don't show up with it, they know what a proper cinema camera is because these clients, many of them have been on shoots. They know what a professional looks like. And a DSLR often does, or a mirrorless doesn't often have the body to make it look professional, even when you rig it up. You can rig it up and make it look professional, of course, but sometimes they're very specific. They want the FS7. That's why I bought it. It's just a highly requested camera. And thanks to it, I've been able to land more jobs, get higher pay. Also, it's improved my skills because there is a lot to know about cinema cameras. There's a lot of things that you do differently, the way you operate them. If you want to invest yourself and make yourself into a director of photography, then you definitely need to get your hands on them somehow. If you can't buy it, maybe get around people that have them, get your hands on them. Once you have these cameras, you can charge a rental fee for using it. So on top of your day rate, you have a rental fee. Also, as you invest in better lights, you can rent those out for the production. So I'm not saying just go out there and buy whatever you want or whatever you think you need. You have to be very strategic with it. You gotta make sure that you are in a position where buying a piece of gear can actually get you more work. So for example, buying the Sony a7 III was could potentially get me more work because I knew the right people that wanted that camera or that were expecting me to show up with that camera. Same with the Sony FS7. I was in a position where I was getting requested that camera. Therefore, it made sense for me to show up with it if I wanted to show up or to be considered for those higher budget projects. So if you want a Red, make sure that at least you have a game plan to make up all the money you're going to spend for it. Now, I don't have any clients that are asking for the Red camera. Maybe down the line, that'll be an option. So I know I've heard of stories of people buying Reds just because they want a Red, but then they're not making any money of it. They're not getting clients because of it. So you have to be very strategic. You have to weigh it out and make sure that it's a good investment for you. One thing I do have to mention that might be silly is that when I personally show up with a cinema camera, I feel more like a professional. It might be the size of the camera or just the way it looks, the whole rig. It makes me feel differently. I carry myself differently. Feel free to disagree, but presentation matters. When you have a proper gear, the professional looking gear, it sends signal to your clients that you are different from a regular videographer, a person that just shows up with a DSLR or a mirrorless camera. Because often those smaller camera bodies, they look like what anyone can buy. Anyone, meaning like, I've gone to weddings where people have the same camera that I'm shooting with. And I'm not saying that's a bad thing, because often it's more important, your skill level. That's what's really important, not the camera. But the fact that when you show up with a cinema camera, not anyone can just go out and buy a camera like that. It's a very impressive looking camera. I'm just saying that, yes, looks do matter. The size of the camera matters, and it makes you look more like a professional. I know that's superficial, but we are human. We are influenced by what we see. To wrap up my little rant, I just want to say this is my personal opinion. You can feel free to disagree. I don't mind that. You can drop your comments down below in the comments section. I would love to have a conversation and hear from you guys, see what you think. I know before I get any negative comments or like, hey, why are you saying that? There's plenty of filmmakers that are making a living with having the bare essentials, bare minimal. They don't need cinema cameras. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that for certain jobs, for certain projects, you are required to shoot or to show up or to have the proper gear. So it's not always a cinema camera. It's not always having the drone. It depends what tools are being requested. So that's all I'm saying. Hey guys, that's it. Thank you very much for watching. I appreciate you, and I'll catch you on the next one.